I was going to record this earlier in the day, get fully dressed up. However, um, I had other things going on, and my contact lenses decided to act up. So I figured I have access to technology. Why not just record this presentation and upload it to my YouTube channel uh, using the advent of technology? So, with that, today I'm going to be discussing disabilities in popular culture. This is a presentation by myself, Jesse Hurd, and a partner in my special education 3000 section 1 class, Ryan Miller. So we were tasked by Dr. Welch of the College of Education in TJ Farr on the Tennessee Technological University campus of finding three different characters, fictional characters, or real life people who are in media, whether it be content creation on YouTube or Twitch or what have you, social media, or celebrities, or just fictional characters who have disabilities and present on them in front of our class. So, we decided to do ours on visual impairment / blindness. Now, before we talk about visual impairment and blindness, it's important to define what visual impairment is. So, with that, there it is. Okay. So what is visual impairment? So, just off the internet, I didn't bother citing these because if you go on Google and look up what is visual impairment, these are the first results. Visual impairment or blindness is the partial or total inability of visual perception. So visual impairment is the partial inability of visual perception, whereas blindness is the total inability of visual perception. Can manifest in actions such as squinting or straining of the eyes, rubbing of the eyes, as well as difficulty in reading, pointing out finer detail, and just not being able to make out light, shapes, colors, etc. Treatment for visual impairments include corrective eyewear, such as glasses or contact lenses, as well as surgery, such as LASIK eye surgery. However, some impairments cannot be treated. Other methods of treatment include people having their eyeballs replaced with glass eyes. A little interesting factoid about me. So, I suffer from keratoconus, and keratoconus is a disorder, a visual disorder that affects 1 in 2,000 people. So if you translate that to the entire world population, that's about 40 million out of 8 billion people worldwide who have keratoconus. And I actually made a video that I put on my personal YouTube channel, which I will leave a link in the description if you would like to watch it. basically going into detail on what keratoconus is. And I have to wear contact lenses. I've had to wear contact lenses since I was 17, and I'm 23 now. So it's been very difficult, but at least I'm able to see. So now I'd like to get into some of the characters that we went over in this presentation. So the first character is Geordie LaForge, played by LeVar Burton. This was my first pick. Like we are doing Geordie LaForge. Geordie LaForge is a character played by LeVar Burton, who is also known for being the host of Reading Rainbow. He is the apprentice of the late Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And he's also known for a miniseries back in the 70s called Roots. And so with Geordie LaForge, he I'll get into that a little bit later. So, excuse me. So Geordie LaForge is a lieutenant commander engineer on the series Star Trek: The Next Generation. His disability is childhood blindness. He is completely, totally blind. He has been blind since he was 5 years old. But how he copes with being blind is he has to wear a device called a visor, which is actually an acronym that stands for Virtual Infrared Sensory Optical Replicator. And so what the Virtual Infrared Sensory Optical Replicator, or visor, allows him to do is he can see in every spectrum of the visual wavelength. So light, color, everything, X-ray, infrared, Doppler, everything. He can see everything. He sees how we hear. And so what that means is he filters out visual noise the same way we filter out auditory noise. Now, for neurotypical people, this is easy, but for people who are neurodivergent, someone would be able to pick up on, my lip smacking or me putting my hand on the desk. Someone would be able to hear every little tiny movement and sound that I make, but a neurotypical could hear that and cope with it. Geordie, being neurotypical, can cope with all the visual stuff that his visor is picking up. Now, LeVar Burton actually said this, getting to my point earlier. So he's also known for Roots on top of Geordie LaForge, and so he said that LeVar Burton said that he played both ends of the African American spectrum. What that means is he played a character that was steeped in a series about racism, a character who knew nothing but racism and hatred, and that was, of course, Kunta Kinte from Roots. And then he also played a character who is a black male in the 24th century who knows no racism. He knows not what prejudice is. because he's never had to deal with prejudice. Prejudice in the 24th century is non-existent amongst skin color. Now, the downside of the character is we never really get to see Geordie struggle with his disability due to the fact that he has the visor. It more or less comes off as an inconvenience. He may lose the visor, but he eventually finds it with help from his crewmates. But he never really struggles with being blind. So some quotes from the show. In season 1, episode 1, Encounter at Farpoint, he says, he's getting checked out by Dr. Crusher after he gets aboard the ship, and he says, naturally I've heard your case. The visor appliance you wear is, and Geordie LaForge cuts her off and says, in sort of the sarcastic tone, is a remarkable piece of bioelectronic engineering by which I, quote, see much of the EM spectrum ranging from simple heat and infrared through radio waves, etc., etc., and forgive me if I've said and listened to this 1,000 times before. So sort of making fun of the fact that pretty much anyone and everyone who's in the medical community at Starfleet has heard of Geordie LaForge. And then in season 1, episode 20, Heart of Glory, we actually see how Geordie sees. He hooks his visor up to the view screen of the Enterprise through what we now know as Bluetooth. And Captain Picard says, Geordie, what's that over to the left? And Geordie LaForge looks over to the left and sees Commander Riker. And Captain Picard says, to me it's just an undefined form standing in a visual frenzy. Can you filter out all the extraneous information? And Geordie LaForge says, I select what I want and then disregard the rest. So once again, reinforcing that he sees how we hear. So next, I want to talk about Kanan Jarrus. Kanan Jarrus is played by Freddie Prinze Jr., Freddie Prinze Jr., also known for being a writer for the WWE. On top of being a famous actor, he's also a writer. Very cool guy, honestly. So Kanan Jarrus, I'm going to be completely honest, I don't really know a lot about Kanan Jarrus, other than he is a Jedi Knight promoted from Padawan in Star Wars Rebels. He is the master of Ezra Bridger. He did not start the series being blind. He became blind due to, I believe, getting a lightsaber strike to the face. So he has what's known as on-set blindness. He, once again, his blindness isn't really a disability. It's more so a what's the word I'm looking? An inconvenience. Excuse me. And the reason for that is because he uses the Force to sort of see around him, to sense around him. And overall, it's a good representation of visual impairment, but he has his sight restored just before the death via the Force, which does take away the disability a little bit. But he gets to look at his significant other, Harrison Dula, his girlfriend slash wife slash just significant other. So once again, I don't really know a lot about this character, but my partner on this project, Ryan Miller, wanted to talk about him. So now we have a dialogue between Kanan and a character called the Bendu, played by Tom Baker, the Fourth Doctor, Doctor Who. So you can pause this and read this. I'm not gonna read it out. So now we get to the big hurrah. Frank Slade, played by Al Pacino. This is probably the most famous incarnation of blind representation in cinema. Frank Slade has total blindness. He cannot see light, he cannot see color, he cannot see anything. He is a lieutenant colonel who lost his eyesight when looking at an explosion from grenades. He is a mentor to the protagonist, Charlie, Chuck, who is a private high school student at the Baird School. He takes Charlie to exotic places to try and get him to see the world before committing suicide because he can't cope with himself being blind. The movie ends with Colonel Slade testifying at a hearing to support Charlie and disavow the values of the Baird School. Basically, Charlie was going to be expelled from this school and denied acceptance into Harvard because he would not inform on his classmates who graffitied a wall on the school campus. So we see Colonel Slade struggle deeply with his blindness due to PTSD. However, he is a man with conviction in what he perceives to be honorable, and this is something that really irked me in the film. When Colonel Slade is being addressed by the headmaster of the school, he doesn't call him by his rank, he calls him Mr. Slade. And as someone who grew up in a military family with a dad who was a first-class petty officer in the Navy, that really kind of makes me angry, because you don't call someone Mister, you call them by their rank. You call them chief or petty officer or sergeant or colonel or lieutenant or whatever their rank is, corporal, what have you. So that just really makes the headmaster a very unlikable antagonist. So two of the most famous scenes in this movie are the scene where Frank Slade is going to commit suicide, and Charlie gets the gun away from him, and he says, "Get on with your life, would ya?" And Frank Slade says, "What life? I ain't got no life. I'm in the dark here. You understand? I'm in the dark." And he shuts his eyes for the first time since going blind. He actually shuts his eyes, despite the fact that he can't see. And then my personal favorite piece of the final monologue that he does, he says, when he's testifying at Charlie's hearing, there's 3 sections of the monologue, but I wanted to put this section in here. I've been around, There was a time I could see. And I've seen boys like these, younger than these, their arms turn out, their legs ripped off, but there isn't nothing like the sight of an amputated spirit. There is no prosthetic for that. You think you're merely sending this splendid foot soldier back home to Oregon with his tail between his legs, but I say you are executing his soul. And why? Because he's not a bad man. Bad men. You hurt this boy, you're gonna be bad bums, the lot of ya. You know, the executing his soul part is really impactful, and he also talks about it's like I don't know who came to this place. William Jennings Bryan, William Howard Taft, William Tell, whoever. Their soul is gone if they ever had one. They passed. And he's basically saying, like, look, these notions of leadership that you prop up, that they're just notions. They don't mean anything. But this boy is real, and he's here, and So I just thought that was really interesting. So with that, I believe. Yep, that is the end of the slideshow. So, hopefully you enjoyed this presentation. Apologies for my lack of formal, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess formal appearance. I'm not shaving. My hair is kind of unkempt, and I'm wearing a t-shirt. So apologies for that. But this is the best I could do. And thank you for watching.